Good afternoon. Everybody had a good lunch, I assume, I hope, and everything. I just wanted to thank Rick Ducharme for inviting us down to talk about how we replicated the Feral Freedom Program here in Jacksonville and Charleston, South Carolina. And I also want to thank each and every one of you, especially those of you, and I'm sure I won't ask you to, by a show of hands, the ones of you who are paying for this, this trip, this opportunity to explore some best practices that have worked for other communities. But those of you who are, paying out of your pocket, a special thanks to you for doing that. I also, before we get into this session or this presentation, just want to give credit to an animal control officer who developed this presentation. And his name is Kerry Stout, supervisor of animal control in the city of North Charleston, which as a shelter is the largest contributor of the stray population to the sheltering system there. And I'll talk a little bit about the sheltering system in a few moments. But this, I wanted to adhere to the spirit and honor that spirit of the presentation being developed by an animal control officer. Because I think it's, really refreshing and very admirable that he did that. Now, I kind of massaged it here and there, and the stats and the data and that type of thing is what I inserted into the presentation. But there's a few of us, about 3 of us, that put it together. So, free-roaming cats, how we learn to effectively decrease their population. I'm an engineer by training and background, so I'm kind of always looking at trending and what's effective, really focused on those outcomes. Are we achieving what we need to achieve, and are we on the right path to that? Charleston Animal Society is 139 years old. It's the oldest animal organization in the state of South Carolina, one of the oldest in the nation. It's an open admission, full-service shelter. One of its things that it's most proud of is that in 139 years, it's never turned an animal away. And April 3rd of this year, we launched an initiative called No Kill Charleston 2015. It's not about our organization, it's about our community. And what we want to do is to achieve that and sustain that. And we'll talk a little bit about sustainability as we move through the presentation. Here we go. So some of the key points, and this presentation has been delivered in different forms to a number of different groups. Sometimes all animal control officers, sometimes a combination of shelter personnel, animal care and control, and then sometimes a combined audience of animal rescue organizations, animal shelters, and animal control agencies, and thereabouts. This is an animal control issue, and that's the way we framed it in Charleston County, based on local politics, local culture, etc., to achieve the outcome. And I think one of the things that we had to discipline ourselves about was to remain focused, be strategic, and determined to achieve what we wanted to achieve. So we framed this as an animal control issue. It's not a Save the Cat campaign. Well, of course, that's our hidden agenda, the Save the Cat campaign. But that's the way we framed it. We need to control the animal population. And no matter what we do, managing the population of a species is complicated. It's hard. It's hard work. And I know each and every one of you spend countless hours at it. Managing the population of 2 species, canines and felines, is doubly hard. And unfortunately, a lot of folks in other industries, don't have to deal with a 3rd species, the human species, like we have to deal with. So it's kind of like 3-dimensional chess for us is the way I look at our industry. It does not replace the trap and euthanize strategy. It supplements that. Why? Because the trap and euthanize strategy, as we all know, just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It works in terms of killing cats, but it just doesn't work in terms of achieving an outcome of reducing the overpopulation. The strategy is framed within a multifaceted initiative. We have what's called a return to colony, a return to field. We have a fostering component, an adoption component. The infrastructure, and we built that out as a separate component because we knew we would need equipment and training and maintaining that equipment. And also the foster coordination. So we refer to it as a Free Roaming Cats initiative and not a program. Arguably, each one of the components could be a program as a standalone. It's based on the premise that return-to-field cats have no identified owner and are commonly referred to as community cats. Now, for the state of South Carolina, in our statute, an owner is any person who has a right of property in a pet, keeps or harbors a pet, who has in his care or acts as its custodian, permits a pet to remain on or about any premises occupied by that owner. Pet means only domesticated cats, dogs, and ferrets. So many times in terms, what I would suggest or what we learned was that instead of trying to change a statute at that level, I mean, it's hard enough to change an ordinance, try to use the existing statute to your best benefit and what you want to accomplish. Use the law to work for you as opposed to trying to change the law. It's a lot easier to do it that way, or it was for us. It's based on the law and ensures that local ordinances don't conflict with statutes. Okay? It's collaborative and supported by animal control, rescue groups, animal shelters, pretty much everyone in the animal care world in Charleston. And I would suggest that anytime there's consensus of agreement in the animal world, whatever it is, it's got to be right. Okay. So here's where we kind of get into some stats. Most importantly, the Free Roaming Cat Initiative in Charleston County, South Carolina, we believe is effective. And that's the bottom line. It's effective. That's how we got community support and legislation, ordinances to support it, is that we argued that it would be effective. Let's try it. We think that it is effective. Now, these stats are through August of this year compared with that same 8 months over the last 5 years so that we can really compare apples with apples and look at trending. This is for all companion animals, canines and felines. And by the way, Charleston Animal Society is not a municipal shelter. We have the contract with 6 animal control agencies, so there are no government or municipal shelters in Charleston County. Okay, so we handle 90% of the companion animal population in our community, or facilitate that. So as you see on total live release from about 2007, which is really what we consider our baseline year, through this 8 months of 2013, steady trending up. Lots of times we talk about sustainability in terms of financial sustainability. That's probably 95% of our conversations about sustainability is in terms of financial existence and continuance. But programmatic sustainability is just as important. Okay, how do you measure programmatic sustainability? How do you know that the program is effective or if it's working? Well, there aren't any really variances or anomalies in here, any spikes up and then going back down. And it wouldn't really matter that much if there were. But this is steady trending. Steady trending, and that's what you really want to look at if you can quantitatively measure your programs. And that would demonstrate programmatic sustainability. This is our intake, and we don't really need to see, it's not really important what the raw numbers are. What's important is the trending. So you can see that right around this time frame, okay, of about 2010, 2011, the intake started to come down. 2011 is when it really peaked downward, okay, for the first time in recent history, certainly. That was about 12 months, or about 12 to 18 months after we implemented the feral freedom model. Year-to-date adoptions keep going up. Many of these are the free-roaming cats that are coming in. This is our free-roaming cat spay-neuters, and you do see there's a little dip here. And there was a reason for that, and if you look and explore the reasons, what happened was we purchased a significant amount of additional traps and equipment. And we did some things to build our capacity and expand that, which we feel brought us back up on that upward trend. This is total year-to-date targeted spay-neuter. And then probably, one of the most important measures is this decreasing trend in euthanasia. Okay. This is live release rate coming up versus euthanasia rate. And you can see the live release rate going up, the euthanasia rate going down. Here's a really, kind of a key graph where we can isolate cats and kittens. The green dotted line is for puppies, and that's live release rate from 2007 through 2013. Same period of time, meaning those 8 months, of the first 8 months of the year, January through August. The red dotted line is dogs. This blue line right here is kittens, and then the purple line are cats, adult cats. The blue solid line is all of those combined. That's programmatic sustainability. That's what you want to see, increased trending. Well, what does that work out into numbers? Well, in 2007, January through August, our live release rate, our live release rate for cats, adult cats, which would be about here, 16%. Okay, 2007 in Charleston County, only about 16% of adult cats were being released alive. This year, 90% were released alive. Steady trending upward, and that's what we want. Ooh, yeah, 90%, like that. 76% for kittens, which started out in the 20 percentiles 6 years ago. Okay. Hard. It's hard. Don't want to say there's a silver bullet or suggest that feral freedom is a silver bullet, but I believe that it's the closest thing that we have to it. Is it going to work overnight? No. It takes a lot of hard work, more work than what you're doing now, and steady trending over a period of time. Live release rate, intake coming down, live release coming up, live release rate going up. And then this is the intake for each one of those that we just covered. This is one of my favorite graphs because this depicts summer. And we all know June, July, August, that's the hardest time of the year for us. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Thank you. Get a little dry mouth. Okay. All right, so summer is, I think we'd all agree. That's the most difficult time, most challenging time of the year for us and everything. And, in talking with our staffs have been around for a number of years and all, so many of us go into summer every year being taught and being trained that we lose summer. We lose summer every year. Just assume that. Even in our industry, sometimes with our own worst enemies, and telling each other that you cannot do it. So don't even try, Don't even try. You're going to lose summer. And quite frankly, we're just sick and tired of it. Sick and tired of being told that you're going to be beaten down every summer. You cannot come out saving these lives, or the majority of these lives. Oh, yeah? Well, and we want to, again, make sure that we're comparing apples with apples and the season or summers over the past 6 years. What we found was our euthanasia rate 6 years ago for just the summer months was 73%. Live release rate, 27%. The green line is a steady increase in adoptions, but that's not all of our total live release. So as we moved up in summer, this summer we had a 90% live release rate for summer. 10% euthanasia rate. And where we are right now, and I had a conversation, I was talking with Rick Ducharme at lunch, or earlier before lunch maybe. What we think is that if we stay on the trending that we're on now, if we can get through October, and we can get through November with not putting down any healthy or treatable animals, we will have gone 12 months with a 10% or less euthanasia rate. And we feel that that's what we want to do. Thank you. But we have 700 animals in our system, and our shelter is only designed to hold 263. We've got 400 and something in foster homes, and it's just, any day it could all collapse. Any day it could all collapse, so we just stay on it every day, like all of you do. Okay. So, number one reason we like this approach is that it works. I'm going to kind of shift over here because we're not pointing at numbers and things for the rest of the presentation. But in spite of a new shelter being built, increased animal control officers, expanded hours and days of the operation at the largest animal control, meaning that they went from a 5-day-a-week operation to a 7-day-a-week operation, and more trapping equipment, increasing our capacity, and the popularity of the initiative in the community, more people are bringing animals in, are calling us. And just to give you an example, I mean, if If you factor in all of this, you would think that the intake would really spike. But in spite of all of this, the intake is steadily coming down. Okay. 2009, our baseline year, we had 2,594 kittens and neonates coming into the system. Real measure of what kind of reproductive activity is out there in the feline population. 2012, we had 2,203 kittens and neonates come in, which was almost 400 fewer, resulting in about a 15% decrease. And that is what we want, and that is our argument both to our community, including legislators, as well as to potential investors, grant makers, is that this is effective. If you want to invest in something that's solid, and you can, if my retirement fund would look like some of those graphs back a couple of slides ago, I wouldn't, still be working. However, if you want to bet on a sure winner, bet on us. Invest in us. Okay. Number one reason to initiate this program, and again, now this is coming from an animal control officer, okay? And these are his words. We're all tired of picking up or processing cats to be euthanized. We're just sick and tired of it, That's from an animal control officer. Regardless of how many we trap and bring in, it seems like a never-ending battle. For every one cat you remove, another one shows up, thus the vacuum effect. Unless you use an already established territory, you will continue to get cats back in the same location. What is a free-roaming cat? And sometimes, the way we define things in animal welfare is just semantics and play on words. So what we did was we pulled together these definitions that were already established elsewhere and just kind of adopted those through consensus for us to work with. And when I say we, I mean the animal groups and our coalition in Charleston County, so that we weren't sending mixed messaging and confusing the public out there as we talked about the program. The first step was to have a plan. And in the stage of planning, we assessed, and the assessment was easy. That came before planning. But the assessment, we could go back 2 slides and see all of those kittens. That was Charleston County. That was most of the U.S., certainly the South. But in the planning stage, what we did was we had, I think at that time, I had heard Rick speak at a workshop here or there, and basically Jacksonville, very similar to Charleston in a number of ways. It's about a 4-hour drive north of here, Charleston County, South Carolina. We're both on the coast, a number of barrier islands, just a number of similarities, lots of alligators, that kind of thing. So we came down, not once, but twice, and we had Rick actually come to Charleston as well, and we really studied. We studied because we wanted to change the situation. We had to wrestle with some of our own values and beliefs about TNR and releasing cats and all of that. And we talked with a number of the leading experts in the field. Some of them are here today, and more will be here over the next few days. Talked to different organizations, national organizations. Really did, I think, a thorough planning job so that we could develop a strategy. Okay. So we felt like that we could appeal to more investors, and particularly it was the ASPCA that was the initial investor over the first 2 years. And we feel like we could appeal to them if we said that if we could demonstrate that we could make it legal, and that is returning cats not only to colonies with an identified colony caretaker, but out into what we call the field. It's a thriving cat. Someone is feeding it. Are we going to spend ungodly man hours in a police action trying to find out who is feeding the cat versus let's trap the cat, get it, sterilize it, get it back out there to the environment in which it was thriving, and then go on and trap other cats and use our time more efficiently, so to speak. So we knew that we were going to get some legal challenges. We were already starting to hear that in the community. Charleston County, unlike Jacksonville and Duval County, consolidated government is made up of 17 seats of government. By the time I get back to Charleston, there'll probably be an 18th seat of government. I always joke about that. So it's in 6 animal control agencies. So, that's kind of a bureaucratic burden for us. But what we did was we didn't get 1, not 2, but 3 sets of attorneys to look at the strategy and vet it with the state statute. 3 of those municipalities decided that they want to do an ordinance just to affirm it, and then the 4th municipality decided that, no, it's just a policy, a change in policy. But 4 sets of attorneys determined that there was no violation with our state statutes. And so whenever the legal challenge came up, and usually the legal challenges come up by non-lawyers, and I don't know why that is, then we would say that, we're not lawyers. However, we have 4 sets of attorneys that have vetted this and cleared it. And that pretty much took the legal argument out, just off the table right away. And then you got into some real bizarre arguments against it. Okay. This is some sample language, and I know there's some, I think there's even a newer ordinance here in Jacksonville that has real good language in that. Basically, in terms of ordinances and that type of thing, I think it's, what is the spirit, what is the outcome that you want to achieve? And if folks want to doctor up an ordinance and put some language in there, et cetera, just read it carefully. And and use what's already out there. You can use the Jacksonville model ordinance. You can use this one. You can use others out there as something to go by. Customize it to your own community and let it go. Okay. When we say that we approach councils with the premise that these are self-sustaining animals and that we estimated it would save about $50,000 a year, we met individually with no less than about 30 different individual council members for the key municipalities. And we felt like if we could knock off the first one, we would use that as leverage to knock the second one off, et cetera, kind of like the domino effect. And it worked out pretty well. We estimated $50,000. That was kind of just a guess, an educated guess, I suppose. And we actually saved the county about $47,000 in that first year. So we're pretty close to that. We haven't been so lucky with Powerball. Okay. What we claimed and why we believe it will work. We didn't create this stuff. We pulled from what we studied. The average lifespan of a feral cat is 3 to 5 years on average. The average rabies vaccine lasts roughly 7 years. And all of this is arguable, I know, to the scientists and all that. But basically we felt like, this was not us. This was not numbers that we made up. We had resources for all of this. By removing the reproductive urges, you take away many of the nuisance-type behaviors. The average colony only consists of 2 to 10 cats, and what we did in Charleston County through the animal control agencies was really did a survey, and it looked like the average colony was around 3. Because some of the opposition was, you're going to get 50 cats in everyone's yard on the street and that type of thing, just fear-mongering. Okay. The ordinances pass, okay, and these are going to be available to y'all. Okay. So step 2 was cost analysis. We determined what we would need to increase our capacity to trap more cats and bring them in. Well, one of the things that surprised us was that the community was following this, the television reporting of this over all of these ordinances passing, and the big ordinance was a county ordinance, and the newspaper was following it and everything, and sort of some of the opposition made their stand with the 4th ordinance or the 3rd ordinance at the county level. And that was where people made their stand. They came out to oppose it, and it really was, I wouldn't describe it as a slam dunk, but I tell you, when you get a couple of veterinarians to testify before a municipal council or a county council, probably, which has never heard testimony from a veterinarian, or rarely heard testimony from a veterinarian, that says a lot. It just holds a lot of weight. And you do the lobbying ahead of time. So it was almost a slam dunk and everything. Okay. 2 organizations really helped us get started with this, ASPCA and PetSmart Charities. Part of the rationale, and that was part of the rationale, is that, look, this is not going to cost the municipality anything. We have an investor for the piloting phase for about 2 years, okay, to pilot this. And what we kept pulling from was the numbers. And this was intake. And this is trap and kill. This is the result. This is the outcome of trap and kill. Many of the legislators, just, business people, common sense people, well, I can see, what is it they say? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, and expecting a different outcome. No, this is the same outcome, and we're losing. What we're doing is not working. And that helped to solidify our argument to pass it. These are more stats in terms of numbers that we presented. Numbers for Charleston County, our local community. Typically, legislators at the local level don't really care about other communities. Our Department of Natural Resources came out to oppose it unofficially. I think the person got in trouble, actually, and actually read a letter from the similar department in the state of New Jersey. And I don't know about the rest of you, but anything from the state of New Jersey doesn't really carry a lot of weight in Charleston, South Carolina. So that was kind of like a softball that they threw to us. Okay, let me move on through here. In the field, very similar to Feral Freedom here in Jacksonville, and I know we're running out of time. Okay. About 5? Something like that, okay. All right. Animal control receives the complaint, responds and obtains the history of the cat, educates the complainant on the benefits of free-roaming cats. Now, let me mention something. In Charleston County, we have about 1 animal control officer per 20,000 residents. That doesn't sound like a lot, but in the animal control field, that's a high ratio. 1 full-time animal control officer for 20,000 residents. Our method of education is mostly through the animal control officers because we have so many of them in Charleston County. Animal control makes a determination the cat will be a TNR, a DNR, which means do not return, or a euthanized, not return. But after the first year, we took the euthanized, not return off of the table because we found out that we really didn't need it. Okay. And I'm going to skip through that one. Here's some educational materials that we made in Spanish and in English that we gave to the animal control officers as a tool for them to help them educate the public. But it was really face-to-face conversation with the public about how this will work. Bring the cats in. They'll be sterilized, vaccinated, microchipped, and then returned. And they explained at how the premise is that this will actually bring down the overpopulation of free-roaming cats and that the current strategy just simply isn't working. We need another tool in the toolbox. So here's where we took out the euthanized, no return. And what we do is we make that decision at the shelter. Okay? So all of the free-roaming cats come into the shelter. Our veterinarians and staff make the assessment if this animal is in stable health to be returned to the field. And then folks who self-identify as the caretaker, that's what we call return to colonies, and they just bring them to the spay-neuter clinic independently and not through the animal control system. We had about 2 or 3 years of investment in this, which gave us time in Charleston as a community to sustain it. So the plan is, if you have a free-roaming cat in Charleston County, South Carolina, no matter what your income is, there's no copay. You just bring it to the spay-neuter clinic, and it's free to sterilize it, ear tip it, microchip it, and vaccinate it. We talked with several experts about, well, what is a return versus a relocation? I mean, was it 50 feet? Is it 50 yards? Is it, what is that quantitative number? Talked to some of the experts about the population density in Charleston County, the geography in Charleston County, et cetera, certainly. And we came up with 300 feet. So not something that we made up. We did that during the planning stage. 300 yards. So we felt like, with all of those factors, within 300 yards of where a cat was trapped is a return. Okay? I wouldn't suggest that, 300 yards in Manhattan is the same, would be the same thing. Probably like, 300 feet maybe, at most. 300 inches maybe. At this point, we thought to ourselves, what have we gotten ourselves into? We think that a lot. We still do. Citizen trapped feral cats. You must express that the cat is surrendered to your facility for liability purposes. The citizen must be aware that unhealthy cats will not be returned. And citizens were fine with this, and that no guarantees are made. Kittens under 12 weeks are not returned. We funneled the kittens into our fostering system. Okay? Now it's time to fix the problem, solving the problem one cat at a time. We even put aside we've even got an investment from animal organization for marketing this program. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but as the citizens were following this, as soon as the last ordinance passed, the phones just started ringing off the hooks. I mean, just the phones just started ringing. We never used. We reallocated the marketing money to underwrite more spay-neuter. We didn't even need it because folks were following it and word got out. And word spread like wildfire. Surgical procedures, once the cat is cleared by the veterinarian or designated staff for surgery, it's performed the same day as intake to help reduce the stress. The cat is held overnight to ensure there are no complications, and then released the next day at the location it was trapped or within 300 yards of that location. We have animal control officers returning cats to the field. We have shelter workers returning cats to the field, and we have volunteers returning cats to the field. So far this year through August, we've put about 3,000 cats through this system this year, and we expect that we'll probably be between 4,600 and 5,000 by the end of the year. And roughly it's about a 50-50 split between return to fields and return to colonies. And return to fields is there's just not an identified caretaker, but that cat is being fed and sheltered somewhere because it's in pretty good shape. Return to field, and I think I've already explained that. What about the kittens? The kittens go into our fostering system. Right now we have about 300 kittens in foster, and we've maintained that pretty much from the spring. In June, our total number of animals in our fostering system peaked over 500. Our army of foster volunteers, I just can't give them enough credit. How many of you foster? I'm just curious. How many of you foster? Okay. How many of you are foster failures like me? Okay, it's badge of honor. Okay, foster failures, badge of honor. We started a club, you know. Okay. These are just some frequently asked questions that we put on our website and kind of put out there, distribute out there, so that folks can learn a little bit more about it. Lots of misperceptions about it, not thoroughly understanding the initiative. So we're not going to go over all of those. Just some of those questions that we put out there, such as, what is relocation and does it work? Is relocation ever an option? How can I keep feral cats out of my yard? And typically the way we entered this, and we used feral freedom as a model, I think feral freedom has moved away from this, Rick will be able to tell us, is that if the same cat is trapped 3 times, and this doesn't happen much, I mean, it may happen 10 times out of the 3,000 that we've already done, then we would relocate it or euthanize it. We don't euthanize them. We relocate it. And since it's only about 10, or actually about maybe 15, 20 a year, something like that, most of the relocation is done through our staff. They'll take them home with them and relocate them. And then we have a barn and that kind of thing. We've relocated different ones around our campus as well. Okay, TNR helps fighting issues. You can imagine, animal control officer had a really good time looking for these photos, I'm sure. Spraying issues. I don't know where he found that, but helps with illness. There you go. And of course, overpopulation. This is sort of a summary of how we framed the initiative, but most importantly, numbers don't lie. Here are all the numbers of our community. We had a few bird enthusiasts come out and oppose it, as expected. But now that we've been doing it for 3-4 years, and we know that the population is coming down, we feel pretty confident that if we get that challenge again, we'll ask, well, the population's coming down. The population for Yomi cats is coming down. You want us to stop it? Really? Doesn't make sense. Okay. Same thing here. Live intake going up. Live release going up. Intake coming down. Intake coming down. Very important. In spite of all these things, the new shelter being built, increased animal control officers, increased hours, and about $40,000 worth of trapping equipment, and certainly more volunteers, and a very, very popular initiative in the community in terms of community participation. It's working for us. We're always, working it, toying around with it to try to improve it. So are we satisfied with where it is now? No, we're not satisfied. I don't know whether, most of the folks I know in animal welfare are not really satisfied with anything, really, to tell you the truth. So, so it just goes hand in hand. We're not satisfied with this stuff, But that's, and hopefully if you have some questions during the panel discussion about how it works for us, what we did, and I just want to thank Rick and his staff. Scott wasn't on the job for very long. When we came down about 4 years ago, just kind of back and forth. We had some concerns after the first visit. We came back down. Rick, as gracious as he is, came up to Charleston and talked to even more folks up there. our own internal folks were the ones that had the most trepidation about this. And almost, I would say nearly 100% of the time, whatever we do that we have trepidation about in terms of trying, the community surprises us and supports time and time again. So what I would say is, focus, be strategic, be determined, which I know y'all already are, determined. Go after it. Trust your community and the support that they will give you in this. And solving a problem. Thank you.